Your weekly news roundup on everything happening in Battlefield 5. Gameplay and info to be expected on Lofoten Island and the Provence maps coming up alongside the fully yet to be confirmed 5v5 game mode from Gamescom this week. Progress being made on the next big Battlefield 5 update, the usual small snippets of news on the SoonDone map, weekly armory updates and the Tide of War missions, alongside of course the RTX contest that has now fully launched. This is your week on the Battlefield. Welcome to this episode of This Week on the Battlefield, the show where we cover news, updates, the community, and so much more, all around the Battlefield franchise. As per usual, there's much to cover, so let's jump straight into it. This week, of course, we got the bombastic Fantastic 2.0 playlist, giving us Conquest on Hamada, Panzerstorm, Mercury, Twisted Steel, and Arras, alongside Breakthrough on Arras and Panzerstorm to get that vehicle-focused Tides of War mission, which of course unlocked the Fahlgrün Panzer 38T skin, unlocked as effectively as possible. For those who like vehicular combat on a more large-scale Conquest Breakthrough type gameplay experience, this is most definitely a welcome and fan-favorite playlist. For those players more focused on the infantry type of combat style, likely this wasn't a great week to be playing Conquest or Breakthrough in Battlefield 5. Also in small snippets of updates we had this week, we got the Armory collector skins for the Sten gun and Bren LMG. As I mentioned in last week's episode where we covered those same skins for two other weapons, these are, in my opinion, if you're one of those people who has enough company coin, worth picking up if you're looking for better skins for your weapons but don't want to put real life money on the line. Then finally the RTX contest launched, the screenshot contest where up to 10 people will be able to win an RTX 2080 Ti, so make sure to check out the details down below in the description on how to enter and get your chance at picking up one of those graphics cards. And what to expect next week, of course, we have info and gameplay coming on Provence and Lofoton Islands from the game changers at the Gamescom event, where our two community managers, Jeff Braddock and of course Part Welsh, will be present to guide them through the process and hopefully provide us some more details on upcoming content and specifically when it actually will be coming. Also, what to expect next week, of course we have the weekly assignments, which once again is going to be a melee weapon, a cosmetic upgrade, in this case a melee dagger, the Fairbairn Sykes. The community understandably is not too happy about that. In SoonTM news, we have the next big August patch, which is of course the one alongside multiple bug fixes that should be bringing us the rank increase. The patch has supposedly now moved on to testing at the QA team, hopefully they do their job this time round, but of course won't be coming next week, but likely some of the details on what to expect from it will be, as the patch will likely release towards the very end of August, possibly even a couple of days late, given how DICE usually handles things. In SoonDone news, we have progress being made on fixing the visual artifacts issues finally, but supposedly they're not quite done yet. We should expect more info, most likely coming next week. With a bit of luck, we could see SoonDone launching with the next major update towards the end of August. Then private games info should be coming towards the end of this month. A lot of things coming up to the end of the month, and I have a feeling not all of them are actually going to get done. Then we had Temporal once again making the cut in this week's episode, giving us a rendering of the interior of the Ju-52 transport plane, which should eventually make its way to the ground operations on the German side. Supposedly also there's a full set of German paratroopers waiting to be used for the animations. How far they've actually processed in using those and making the actual intro sequence is yet to be determined. Further from Temporal, we've gotten additional information on the 5v5 mode. I'm not going to go into too much detail on the specifics of the class details he's provided. If you're interested in them, I'll have his Twitter link down below in the description, where you can always stay up to date with everything being data mined over in Battlefield 5. Then in community news, as expected, we will be talking about the 5v5 mode because it's been causing quite a bit of controversy over on the Reddits and the community forums. Why? Well, because understandably, many people aren't interested in a 5v5 competitive mode for Battlefield 5 and find that the game is in such a poor state, really there should be no development time being wasted on something that ultimately will be picked up by maybe 10% of the community, and that's if it's actually good, which is, given DICE's track record on these issues, not guaranteed in the slightest. Of course, there's varying opinions on the matter. I, for my part, always wanted a competitive game mode for Battlefield 5 or the Battlefield franchise as a whole, but fully recognize that honestly, with the game being in the state that it currently is, with the player base that it currently has, really a successful 5v5 game mode is unlikely, near impossible. You need a healthy, stable, successful game alongside a relatively large player base to support a popular 5v5 mode if you want it to take off and, even more important, stay successful over a lengthy period of time. DICE also needs to launch these alongside the game when they come out, so they're there from the front and can be in the spotlight from day one. So really adding this post-launch almost a year after the game has actually come out, in my opinion, is already the death sentence of this, much like we had with the incursion testing for Battlefield 1. Then the second sticking point in community news this week is of course the weapons in the live service, or frankly the lack of Tides of War weapons being introduced. For the past 6 weeks I believe we haven't had a new weapon, maybe it's 5, but let's put it this way, plenty of unnecessary and annoying cosmetics, plenty of melee weapons that nobody wants, with basically a whole roster of weapons already in the game file, seemingly fully implemented with animations, stats, damage tracking, etc. As a video posted over on Reddit by DrimpleX nicely shows, summarizing all of the weapons data mined so far, and there's countless there. So the question really does come up, why DICE is holding back so much content when their community is dwindling in numbers and so very, very frustrated with their current handling of the Tides of War challenges. I'll leave that of course linked down below in the description if you're interested and want to remind yourself of all the weapons yet to be introduced. Then over in our only in Battlefield moments, we start off the week with Swordaz and Molon Labe with how to snipe in Battlefield 5. In another installment of How Not to Battlefield, we have Nova Day with the impact grenade this week. Then we have Unknown Entity with a beautiful aggressive scout clip, making the most of his primary, secondary and knives to comfortably take out a push over onto the C objective on Fiel. And lastly we have Nullyboy taking out a tank, a Spitfire and a Mosquito all on his own, all at once, in a bomber over on Narvik. But with that, we're coming to the end of this week's episode. If you enjoyed the show, found it interesting or entertaining, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share, and of course hit me up with your feedback, suggestions, and opinions down below in the comments or over on Twitter. With that being said, however, I'd like to thank you very much for watching, and hope to see you in the next episode of This Week on the Battlefield.